In your words, explain for us what we as an audience can expect from a 3D binaural sound experience. How does it sound like? Besides that the listeners can experience it through this podcast episode, I love your example from your article, VR for Your Ears, Dynamic 3D Audio is Coming.
I think it's really about being there at another location, traveling in space and time somehow. And for myself, in that example, I remember I wrote something about an NBA game because I'm a big basketball fan. And that's sort of my dream scenario. It's really expensive to get courtside tickets to the NBA Finals, but why not have a sound field microphone and a 360 camera there? And then I can virtually be, next to Jack Nicholson at his courtside seat in Los Angeles and watch the Lakers win over the Celtics back in the 80s, I guess, not these days. Don't know who's the best ones now, but you can go in there and you can really feel there. It's really about being there. It's the whole ambience. It's not so much pinpointing a specific sound at a specific location. It's about feeling, like you talked about before, feeling like you're really at a different place. And if you think about that, you might have a TV even, like I said before, that has sort of just the visual part of it, where you're looking through a window, but you still have the full 3D audio experience. In my mind, I think that's more important than having the 360 video. I want the 360 audio because that really has much bigger impact. Like I said, I will still, when I watch something, a game, if I'm there, I will be focused on a very narrow field of view anyway. So that's one of the examples. And then the other, that's one of my favorites, is to be at a really small, intimate concert with somebody. And the way I envision this going to happen is like, take as an example, like Elton John has a concert at some place, some hotel bar or something, with an acoustical piano, just singing there. And you have a few real people there as well. You have all this stuff going on. And you have your, microphone set up there. My God, it would be amazing, right? To be listening to that, have a head tracking, and really be there, hear him as he is in reality. That's something you cannot experience on a record, and not on a real big concert either. It's only in this small, intimate setting where you get that truly intimate feeling, right? So there's amazing opportunities in my mind with 3D audio.
Besides audio advertising then in VR, AR, where else can we experience 3D sound today? And how common is it at this stage today?
So it's a good question how common it really is, because, I've heard, and this is sort of unofficial, but at least in some countries, there's actually more binaural content being downloaded and consumed than high-res audio. And I think it makes sense because, to be quite fair, high-res audio maybe doesn't bring so much of an added experience from regular CD quality, whereas spatial does that. But I don't have sort of official statistics on that, but we're seeing more and more also just the binaural content. Even on YouTube you can find clips and so on. Some of them are very gimmicky on the other hand, but it's just at least nice to hear it. BBC have done some binaural recordings of the proms, really nice, and so on. But you're getting to see more and more also games, right? Computer games, of course, with 3D audio in various formats. And also a little bit of movies. In the cinemas you have, the 3D sound, Dolby Atmos and so on. So there's more and more content coming, but it's still a little unclear which, content types and formats will sort of be the big ones. But we can see also in the mobile area, talking to mobile manufacturers, that they are truly looking into enabling 3D audio on their devices. And we have seen Apple, to have spatial audio with their AirPods Pro running on their smartphone. So that's another step in that direction, that we can more and more experience movies and other content in 3D. Even music, to some extent, is being coded into 3D now. Whether that will really catch on, I'm a little bit more, maybe skeptical about. We'll see. It's been tried before. It's not really caught on for the general public. But certainly in all these VR, AR, and games and movies, for sure.
One of my favorites, actually, when I grew up, I loved listening to stories on a cassette. So Astrid Lindgren, for example. And I think storytelling and audiobooks really can bring you, like you are a part of that story. You're like listening next to them, and I think that could really advance it. I've listened a little bit when you hear like the mouse is to the left and the bird is a little bit northwest or north. I think that is one experience. I'll let you talk about it. But the second one is, would it be possible to bring it in also, like the experience in stores and restaurants? Could that have benefits? Because I always go like gamifying the stores, then not always have the speakers like to the left, to the right, and maybe down, but somehow played around.
Exactly. In your first example, I think that I completely agree. I think this kind of storytelling, ebooks and sort of radio plays and stuff can just benefit tremendously from the spatial aspect. Again, just brings you there, becomes so much more realistic. Completely agree with it. And I'm surprised that it's not more out there already, because this is quite easily done today. And then with the second example, there's so much unexplored, right, in that scene. There, probably what you will do is not so much the actual binaural audio, because you will have to design for many people there. So, but with many speakers though, and using the spatial aspect of sound, and not just sort of thinking about it as a one-dimensional thing, because it isn't. We have these three-dimensional senses in hearing, particularly, and we should utilize that. So if you have several speakers in your store, you can really create a movement of the sound and even take people to certain locations, right? Exactly. And you have these more sort of like information kiosks, not so fun example, but in a sense, like if I'm at some department store and looking at this information kiosk, asking for information about where something is, if you have a small speaker array and also this crosstalk cancellation technology, you can get also the sound to say, okay, it's over there, really in the right direction of you. So there's a lot to be explored there. I think it's like really an open field for imaginative people and a lot of creative ideas that should be explored there.
That's so cool. But can, for example, audiobook companies and already recorded content be translated or transformed into binaural, or does it always have to be recorded in binaural from start? That's
a good question. You need, if you have a sort of a stereo recording or a recording where you have several different sounds being recorded into one track, then it's hard to take away that and bring the 3D sound. But if you have each of the sources recorded separately, then you can artificially mix them. There are a lot of actually plugins for digital audio workstations where you can do spatial rendering by adding this head-related transfer function to a specific object and rendering it in a certain space. But of course, the most sort of vivid experience you will get is if you can actually record the whole scene binaurally or with Ambisonics. That's true.